Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Welcome to Open Your Eyes. I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Asana Cayetano.
And thank you for joining us this morning. It is a lovely Monday morning, and of course, we're going to jump right into finding out what we can expect for today. We start off, of course, with our weather report. And we have Michael Gentle on the line. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, Mike, let's get into the weather for today. What are we expecting?
Okay, we're expecting conditions to continue generally fair and mostly dry for today and during the next few days.
All right, and our 24-hour forecast?
It's expected to be mostly sunny today, clear to partly cloudy tonight, with little or no rainfall expected.
And the winds?
The winds will be a light east to southeasterly flow, 5 to 10 knots. Sea conditions will be slight.
Okay. And our high temperatures, they're creeping back up now, aren't they?
Just slightly, yeah. We're expecting 84 along the coast with 88 inland and 78 in the hills. For tonight, 74 along the coast, 68 inland and 64 in the high elevations.
Mm-hmm. And what about our extended forecast? Are we going to see any changes in the next few days?
Not much. We expect similar conditions for tomorrow, Tuesday and Tuesday night, with the chance for isolated showers developing during Wednesday.
All right. Well, that's very straightforward. We got sunny skies ahead.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Thank you so much for that update.
You're welcome.
You have a great day today.
Same to you.
Okay. There you have it.
Some good weather.
All the cool temperatures have passed, but it's not too hot at 84 highs. And we are expecting that much for the next couple days, right?
Which is good. No one's complaining.
That's right. Good way to start off the week.
Indeed.
And also to really get you started for today, it's a Monday. You got to shake off that weekend feeling and get things going. And so we're going to move into some motivation for this morning. And our eye opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. Our gratitude deepens when we begin to be thankful for being alive and living the life we are living. Often when we practice being thankful, we go through the process of counting our blessings, acknowledging the wonderful people, things, and places that make up our reality. True thankfulness stems from a powerful comprehension of the gift of simply being alive. And when we feel it regardless of our circumstances. In this deep state of gratitude, we recognize the purity of the experience of being in and of itself, and our thankfulness is part and parcel of our awareness that we are one with this great mystery that is life. Tuning into our breath and making an effort to be fully present for a set period of time each day can do wonders for our ability to connect with true gratitude. We can also awaken ourselves with the intention to be more aware of the unconditional generosity of the life force that flows through us, regardless of our circumstances.
We always say, you know what? Thank God for allowing us to see another day when we wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's where gratitude for the gift of life begins. Once we are able to appreciate that nothing is promised,
Yeah.
but what we do have in the here and now are the things that we must be most appreciative and grateful for,
Yeah.
then I think that's where thankfulness begins, right? Um, on a personal note, from the way I see things, you know, to have family and friends, to have life, to have health,
Yeah.
these are, for want of a better word for me, certain pillars that are in place, right? It's not necessarily promised to anyone because,
That's right.
you know, you may wake up tomorrow and a family or a member of a family or a friend or someone close to you passes away. Or any instance where there is a
Loss.
tragic loss. So being thankful and being grateful to have these persons around, to have, you know, a clean bill of health, to say
Yeah.
I woke up this morning and I'm prepared to take on life, is something that we all should be grateful for. And I think that's where gratitude lies.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, you know, for me, it's bringing it back to just some of the easiest things to be thankful for, but the most commonly neglected
Yeah,
things.
that's true.
You don't think of the breath that you're taking right now as you hustle and bustle about. You don't think of, as much as you may be loathing starting the work week, you don't think of how you should be grateful that you do have a job, or that your children are healthy and in school and able to perform, that you have full capacity if that's the state that you're in right now. And so we just really just take it as a frivolous part of who we are, and we don't really focus and realize how much we have to be thankful for. Family is a gift. You know, I'm always heartbroken when I hear stories of people who are estranged from family or struggling with family issues,
Yeah.
because it really is something that a lot of us just take for granted, to be able to have that relationship. You know, I think this eye-opener is just so timely. Collectively, the whole world is stunned by the death of Kobe Bryant. And I know you're a basketball fan, and most basketball fans are
Yeah.
especially grieving. But what I think is interesting, and I can speak for myself because I'm not an avid basketball follower, but there are some people who manage to transcend beyond their profession.
Yeah.
And he was one of them. He was an icon in his own right. And I think it was because he was a young player when he got started that you got to watch maybe a couple decades of
Yeah.
him playing the sport.
2 decades, quite honestly.
You saw him retire, you saw him really rise to the pinnacle of his career. And so I think having people along on that journey has just built a sense of connection. And so, you know, it's not just a loss, I think, to people who follow basketball, but to everyone. Because it's someone that clearly had a lot of potential left for what would be his next chapter as
Yeah.
well. And of course, the most heartbreaking part is knowing that he died along with his teenage daughter while going to one of her games as well, which is a similar circumstance for some of the other people who were in the helicopter as well. But it's amazing to watch the reaction. And I think it's one of those incidents that take place that force us to do the very same thing that the eye-opener talks of,
Yeah.
being grateful
Yep.
for the little things.
Yeah. Well, I know we're kind of shifting a slight bit
Yeah.
from the eye opener, the
Yeah.
core of the eye opener itself, but this is a situation, Marlene, where, as you rightfully said, he was able to transcend beyond sports, the
Yeah.
sport of basketball, enough so that persons all around the world know who he is,
Yeah.
much the same way they know who Michael Jordan is,
yeah.
you know, in the same sport. Right? They've been able to go beyond what we would expect of athletes. They're people who we look up to. And you mentioned earlier the fact that he has grown in the league, in the sport, and we've all seen that evolution. And my thing is, we're all only but humans. So along with the highs are the lows. And so I can recall some of the challenges that he had,
Yeah.
that he faced and was able to overcome. And it reminds us that we're not above anything really. And the fact that we're human, that means we're fallible. We're able to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And I think that's one of the enduring messages that I take away from his life.
Yeah.
Albeit a short one at 41 years old.
I know. You know, I just think, you know, I was telling someone yesterday, I said, it just reminds you too that it doesn't matter what your status is. It doesn't matter if you are particularly blessed with financial wealth. You know, life is just unpredictable. There's no script that says, you know, these people go first. It can be your
Yeah.
time anytime. So I think especially because I don't think there's a person out there who doesn't feel stunned by it, and naturally feeling a bit empathetic given the circumstances, and especially dying along with his teenage daughter. Parents alone can connect
Yeah.
with that particular loss. And so I think as we start to have those feelings, it's a great time to use the eye opener, which is just saying, go back to being grateful for the little things in your life. You won't have, or you most likely don't have the wealth that he had, but you have life, and you have your family around you, and you have a lot of the little things that many people wish and long for on a daily basis. So just be grateful for it. And it sets you off in a much better mood than you would have if you're thinking of all the other grandiose things you're working towards.
Certainly.
Right? So that's our eye-opener slash, I guess, trending news at the same time. But speaking of news, we got to bring it back home. And so we're actually going to shift gears and take a look at some of the big stories. There's some big developments over the weekend and some stories we'll be looking forward to during the course of this week. So we'll shift gears to the Eye on the News. Yeah.
All right, so I want to begin this morning, Marlene. There are several topics that we will discuss in today's Eye on the News. There were instances of murders across the country, shootings as well, a drug plane landing where the burnt vestiges were found down south. And then I received a copy of a letter from the Teaching Services Commission in respect of the Holy Ancho situation. So what I want to begin with, where I want to start from is discussing the proliferation of guns and ammunition into the country. I think that's what we can say is a factor in all these incidents of gun violence, right? So there is a video that is in circulation where a seizure was made near Red Creek. This is on the outskirts of Santa Elena, the town of Santa Elena, where it's presumable that an individual had just crossed over the western border back into Belize. And this young man, during a search of his vehicle, there were 5 firearms that were found, along with a cache of ammunition, right? A supply of bullets. And this clearly isn't legal. Neither is the importation or the fact that he doesn't have a license. So these weapons will find themselves in the possession of criminal elements, right? By virtue of the fact that you are in possession of a weapon that is not licensed, then you're holding it illegally. And then when a crime situation happens, then, you know, it makes it difficult for authorities to trace those firearms because they're not registered, they're not in the system. And so I wanted to begin there because not only is this, you know, a situation where you see what is happening, not only do we have what we say are border issues and what have you, but it has become fairly easy for persons to be able to transport drugs, weapons, and ammunition into the country. And that is what leads to what we're seeing in terms of persons being attacked, persons being injured using these kinds of firearms, right? So the story as it goes is that on Saturday night, this is on the 25th of January, while members of the San Ignacio Police Formation were conducting a vehicle checkpoint at the Red Creek checkpoint booth, as I mentioned, this is in the outskirts of Santa Elena. They conducted a search on a green and colored Toyota car driven by Omar Ibanez, a 25-year-old Belizean resident of Cotton Tree Village. And the search of the vehicle yielded 5 9mm pistols and 300 9mm rounds.
Wow.
Right? So it's a substantial cache
Yeah,
of
yeah,
weapons and ammunition that were busted in this one instance. As I mentioned, however, the thing about it is that while, yes, this may have been a successful seizure, there are other times when, things
Yeah.
go by.
And we don't know under what circumstances they were
Precisely.
able to catch this particular vehicle.
If it was a tip
If it-
or what have you.
intelligence.
Yeah.
I'd imagine there's cross-border relations taking place between the police forces. Yeah, but I think what you are saying is essentially how telling it is how one vehicle, one crossing can bring such an alarming number of deathly weapons into the country. And I think that is perhaps the part that really is scary. I've thought for a long time of the point that we have cracked down so much on licensed firearm holders. And I've always, and I'm sure there's a reason for that, but we know that I think we can assume that most of the incidents that are taking place are using weapons like these, those that have been brought into the country illegally, ammunition that is brought into the country legally. And so clearly this is one of the areas that I'm sure they focus on, but this is where we have to be stronger in our intelligence and being able to stop the bringing in of these weapons.
So that
Thankfully, those didn't make it to the street. That's what we can say this morning.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
So that is sort of the preface to the other incidents, albeit they're unrelated. But I'm just showing that it's the proliferation of guns and guns and weapons into the country that lead to some of these incidents that we're seeing. And so on Friday, for many of us who are perhaps into the social scene and what have you, people go to nightclubs and establishments and what have you. When the news broke of a murder of the proprietor of Skydeck Lounge on Bayman Avenue, I think that was another one that a lot of people were kind of taken aback by.
Yeah.
We don't know the motive as yet as to why this individual was slain in the manner in which he did. He was. But it's unfortunate nonetheless. I mean, many of us know who he is. We're familiar with him, either having visited the establishment or know him on a one-on-one basis.
Yeah.
So when news went out on Friday night that Ernesto Williams had gotten shot and killed in the vicinity of what we know as Pregnant Alley on Orange Street, we were all shocked. I mean, the questions are, well, what was he doing in the area, who he was with, and what have you. And from what the police report is saying is that on the 24th, this would have been sometime around 10 o'clock or just about, police control room received information of a shooting on Orange Street. And when they proceeded to the corner of Pregnant Alley and Orange Street, they observed a Hispanic male person who was later identified as 44-year-old Ernesto Williams lying in a pool of blood, and he was being treated by personnel from the Belize Emergency Response Team. Yeah. Their investigation initially proved that he was exiting a two-story building on Orange Street after socializing, and he was on his way to his vehicle when he was attacked by a lone gunman. And he was fatally wounded in that incident. So that's another one of the stories that we are going to be following today. And on Friday, just around news time, we broke the news of a murder in Dangriga, where an individual who was also the proprietor of a business, I think it's called Hide and Seek Bar, or the establishment is called Hide and Seek, he was fatally shot as well. He was shot multiple times as a result, right? And that individual has been identified as Darrell Glenford Bermudez. He's 32 years old, and he's a businessman of Melinda Road. He was inside his place of business attending to a customer when a lone gunman approached him and fired multiple shots, killing him on the scene. And it's regrettable that we're discussing crime and violence this morning, but it's something that needs to be put out there as to what's happening. That being said, I also received a message sometime after 10 last night of a murder in Punta Gorda. So I presume that, you know, in terms of the work cut out for the newsroom this morning, we'll be heading to Dangriga and Punta Gorda. And of course, dealing with the murder of Mr. Williams here in Belize City, and another attempted murder that took place here in Belize City over the weekend as well in the vicinity of North Creek area. All right. So my final thing, we're still at a situation involving the Julian Cho Technical High School where there still has not been a resolution as to who the approved successor of Dr. Simeon Koch will be insofar as going forward, right? And there was a timeline set for the 17th of January, in which the board of directors, led by Mr. Gregorio Choc, I believe the name is, they would have to submit to the Teaching Services Commission another name for someone to be appointed in that position as principal, but that person has to be approved by the TSC. So it gives us something now to follow up on as to where we are insofar as that incident. You would know very well that Julian Cho is plagued, as it is, with the scandal coming out of the audit report. And of course, the fact that its former principal is now the standard bearer for Toledo West. And so it's a very fluid time in the school's history. And we'll see where it goes from here. So remember, there's the result of the audit report that is being looked at. There's also the situation that while an interim has been named, there still hasn't necessarily been a resolution to this whole, you know, situation where the school is going forward without a principal having been appointed and installed.
Absolutely. Quite a bit happening. I think clearly the murders are of concern. I do recall, I think it was last week, that the commissioner said they were setting up extra police units in Dangriga to kind of address what was happening there. Because we know that we have seen quite a number of shootings take place and murders as a result. You know, last week we had one in Independence. You're seeing PG.
Where an individual was shot,
And one, you know, I remember having the commissioner here where we asked him if because he was speaking of reduction in numbers of murders in Belize City. And clearly the first question is, you see a spike somewhere else, a reduction in one place, if people are just moving to other areas. His response is no. But I think if we look deeper into the background of some of the people who are involved, many of them are from Belize City and they move in the area. We know that case in Dangriga especially. I'm not sure of the others. I'm not sure of Punta Gorda or Independence, but clearly the hot spots, albeit smaller or less frequent than what we see in Belize City, new areas are becoming more active when it comes to this type of activity. So that's one thing I'm sure they have to get a handle on.
The other thing, and this is interesting because fairly recently in the news, we reported on the acquisition of a $12 million radar system that would, for all intents and purpose, assist in detecting aircrafts in Belize's airspace, right? But against that backdrop, we're also dealing with the landings of drug planes in and around the country. I know last week there was an aircraft that was destined for Mexico, but because the authorities in Chetumal scrambled their air assets, that plane rerouted to Belize and landed in an area behind Crooked Tree Village, in a remote area where, while the aircraft landed intact, accessing it was quite a bit of a challenge for first responders
Yeah.
from law enforcement. So that is one. No, over the weekend,
Yeah, yesterday,
there was
right?
another drug plane that landed in the southern part of the country. I believe this is within the Paynes Creek National Park area. And there's a map showing the geographic location of where this aircraft had landed. Now, it landed. I don't know in what conditions or what was the
Well, the
result of the
images
landing.
look like it's
It was
crashed
set
and
on
burned,
fire.
yeah.
It's perhaps safe to say, however, that its contents, if there were any illicit cargo on board, were safely removed and perhaps transported on. But it brings to mind, as I'm saying to you, the fact that Belize has become the way station, the landing point for aircrafts moving drugs from South America en route to the United States and points beyond.
Yeah.
Right?
And you know, I think especially it's so fresh in our mind because 2019 was an unprecedented year in terms of the number of drug planes that were found after they'd been abandoned. Just a few times there were attempts at interception, but so this is still two already in January.
Yeah.
It shows that you know, I think that people, and what I can't recall clearly from that news article was when the radar would be put into effect, because we know that there was a big event about having the radar and how much it would help with this very same issue. So that's definitely something I'm sure we're going to be looking into. And of course, the other hot topic that people have been talking about is the Lev Derman case and the evidence that showed that part of the submissions will include text messages between Jacob Kingston and John Saldivar. I know that case is actually supposed to, the jury is supposed to be selected this week.
Yeah.
So things are moving ahead there in Utah, and of course, we keep on following.
We'll see what, if any, bearing that will have on what's taking place locally within government.
That's right.
I was hearing, I can't confirm this. I won't go on record to say that this is the actual date, but I have been hearing that it's the 27th of January. I've been hearing that loosely. But like you said, there is a selection process, and then there's the actual substantive matter being heard and then adjudicated. So it will be interesting.
And we keep on following,
as we draw nearer to February 9th.
That's right.
See what that gives.
All right, so that's it for us with the Eye on the News this morning. And with that, we're going to get ready to move into our conversations for this morning. And we are starting off with a conversation with representatives of the Immigration Department. They have a new process that's going to be implemented in terms of passport applications, and we're going to get all the details in the first part of our show.
Our second segment is a discussion with the Belize Cancer Society as we commemorate World Cancer Day.
The third part of our show, we're going to be joined by representatives of the Maya Forest Alliance, and they're going to be talking about dinner with the Maya Chaya. All right, that's coming up in our show. We're going to go ahead and take that first break. But before we do, we got that birthday shout out.
We are saying happy birthday to News 5's and Channel 5's very own Ashley Cleland. Happy birthday, Ash. And Ernestina Renault. Happy birthday.
Double birthdays this morning to start us off.
That's mother and daughter, by the way.
Yeah. Lots of celebration there. But we got to go ahead and take that break. When we come back, we'll get our conversation started. So please stay tuned.
The Belize Bank introduces its mortgage loan promotion for first-time homeowners, offering 100% financing. No down payment? No worries. Obtaining a mortgage loan from the Belize Bank is easy, quick, and affordable. It's home ownership made easy. Visit us today and get underway in becoming a first-time homeowner. Some conditions apply. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Signing up for Smart's broadband got even better. You can now bundle and get a free monthly prepaid mobile plan with your broadband service and enjoy up to $70 in savings. Or you can upgrade your mobile plan for an additional $25 and enjoy an unlimited postpaid plan with unlimited calls, texts, and $40 free data. With Smart's fast internet speeds, you just have to choose the speed that works for your needs. Don't wait! Visit the Smart showroom near you and sign up for your broadband plus mobile bundle. And why not? Sign up and add Netflix to the mix. Smart, your full-service communication company.
What if the profits of your bank were shared equally with you instead of with unknown shareholders and large corporations? What if those profits remained in Belize to enrich the communities where we live? What if just having an account with your bank meant that you were now a part owner of that bank? What if your voice mattered and you had a say in how your bank is being run? What if your bank was always looking out for your best interests and its biggest goal was to see you succeed? That's what it means to be part of a credit union where all of our members are in this together. Communities work best when they work for each other. Cooperation strengthens us all. Discover the credit union difference and find out just how stronger we can be together.
Sa Albert Interlobe. Ita nomada na santi golida ligabri asa talida l'escola abro hatia. Afia da don la mege do.
Time out. Weri hali anigi bele habusa rokurigi ya wena mohaya hagamro duniwa irahia. Baro bada ayano haba hama bisanigu. Demele badugunile bide haba lida leredoroniwa hagamro duniwa irahia.
If it continue the way it is going right now, you would be surprised to see what will happen in the next 10, 15 years. We might have nothing left. And you know what? The Guatemala and they could go back home. Where do we have to go? This is our home. We have nowhere to go. So we need some help. If it continue the way it is going right now, you would be surprised to see what will happen in the next 10, 15 years. We might have nothing left. And you know what? The Guatemala and they could go back home. Where do we have to go? This is our home. We have nowhere to go. So we need some help.
And welcome back. We are kicking off the first segment of our show this morning. As we mentioned prior to the commercial break, we are going to be having a discussion with officials from the Immigration Department. With us on set this morning, we'll begin in the middle, is the Director for Border Management and Immigration Services, Deborah Baptiste Estrada.
Good morning.
Good morning. On her left is the Director of Nationality and Passports Department, Mario Arzu.
Good morning.
And of course, CEO for the ministry with responsible for immigration and refugees, Edmond Zuniga.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to be
folks.
here.
There is a lot that we can touch on this morning in respect of things that are happening within the department. Perhaps we can begin by talking first about a new application system that is set to come on board. Where do we begin from with that?
Let me
Sure.
start off.
No problem.
Good morning. We're here this morning to highlight you, of course, and the Belizean public, and our friends and Belizeans abroad, of a new process in the application for passports that we are implementing. In fact, it goes into effect on the 3rd of February. This is all in an effort to improve service delivery to our customers. What I want to do is to ask the Director of Nationality and Passports to give the details on that change.
Yeah.
Ms. Deborah can jump in whenever she feels.
Yeah.
Well, certainly it is an opportunity that we are trying to undertake to simplify the process. If you can recall, I think it was in February of 2013 when we instituted this present process that we have, where there is the requirement for 2 recommenders, recommender A, recommender B, one from the private sector and one from the public sector, and the requirement that the photographs be endorsed by these recommenders. That was back then. Effective February 3rd, like what CEO just mentioned, we are changing that in that the recommender A and B goes away. We're just using one recommender, which are to be a Belizean national, either by birth or descent, over the age of 18, and is in possession of a valid Belize passport. This one individual will do the endorsing of or certifying the photograph that you will present to submit with your application. We retain both the under the 16 years and over and the under 16 applications separately. These will be also endorsed by the same individual, the one Belizean national over the age of 18 in possession. The difference with the applicants for minors is that the parent as well as the child name goes on this endorsement. As before, you only had the adult who the recommender was aware of. There's one, we had a question before whether or not you can recommend your child. You can if the child is over 18. But the conflict comes in if the child is under the age of 16 because the applicant is still the adult. So you wouldn't be able to recommend yourself.
Because you have to recommend you plus your child.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So that's one of the changes that would be with the minor application. As it relates to the applicants who are applying from overseas to our missions abroad, they would have to have a registered legal practitioner or a registered medical practitioner do the endorsement on their behalf. So basically, you would just need to find a doctor or a lawyer, and then they would do exactly what the Belizean would do while they're submitting in Belize. That's just basically the difference for that. Now, when it comes to the first issue of the application, it technically remains pretty much the same. You need a birth certificate because it's a first application, remembering that the objective remains the same. The objective of the application is to ensure that the person submitting the application, one, is who they say they are by presenting the supporting documents. And two, that person is a Belizean citizen, because those are the only people who are entitled to Belizean passports. So in ensuring those, the first-time applicants would need to present the birth certificate of the applicant, the identification of the applicant, which can come in several forms. Identification now has been opened a little bit more to include your voter's ID as well as your social security card, as well as your nationality application, no, nationality certificate, which carries a photograph, the newer ones that we're putting in process. Once these documents are gathered, you make a submission for the first-time applicants. For the renewals, it has been simplified to the point where your application only goes along with your expired machine-readable passport. That's all that you need, together with the recommender, of course, and that should make the application process a little bit simpler.
So the significant change that I'm hearing is the recommendation portion.
Right.
This leads me to ask you why you feel that this is the right move in terms of the application process for the passport. Why is it that it is not necessary to have two people recommend you and just go to any ordinary Belizean?
Well, what we've found over time is that invariably those persons who were acting as recommenders really don't know the individuals they were recommending. Somebody would travel, say, from PG, end up in Belmopan, the form's not completed, but finds somebody who is a JP, who signs the document, and when you go back to that JP, do you know so-and-so person? And that JP would indeed admit that he hasn't met the person ever. And so that's a change.
But isn't that a crime in itself? If I say on a legal document that I know someone for X number of years, which is what you're supposed to say on your recommendation form?
Well, yes, indeed. But one of the additions to the form now is that you must declare that all your statements on the application are correct.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can be prosecuted.
Okay. Yeah. Now, I think for people, when they hear this, one of the first alarms that may go off, that 2 is better than 1 already, and also that it is something that I think people have taken lightly. I know doctors and teachers that get bombarded with requests for these things all the time, and very often they may not even know the person or just know them through someone else very casually. What is the type of investigation that goes into the vetting of the information? And especially since you are clearly saying that it has been a practice, and I think we all know that people sign off on a recommendation without actually knowing the person.
Well, to start off with, one of the requirements is that the recommender must have a valid Belize passport. And he or she has to submit a copy of that passport data page to us. And we have the passports in our records.
Yeah.
So when I recommend you, I also send forward my passport information.
That's correct. So that we know that indeed you are Belizean, you are who you say you are, that you have a valid passport, but not just that. One has to remember that the passport is the property of the government of Belize. And so if we find that you've made a false declaration, we're going to take that passport. And that's going to limit your ability to travel.
Has this new system perhaps been tested theoretically? I know it will be implemented on February 3rd, as you've mentioned, but has it been sort of tested for any kind of fail-safes or anything like that? Because I know that we put systems in place and then persons find a way of circumventing the process. Has there been any form of testing to see how solid, in a manner of speaking, this system will be?
Well,
go ahead.
I would want to think that the system that we implemented in 2013 has taught us that indeed there are loopholes within the application process. So looking at what we were implementing for the past 7 years, we thought about a system where we could hold people accountable. And I think that's the most important part of this entire process. Both the recommender as well as the individual applying have this responsibility where we have, in addition to the legislation that CEO just mentioned, there's also an amendment that states that if you're involved in obtaining passport fraudulently, you can go to jail for 5 to 15 years with a fine of $50,000. So this additional responsibility that we're putting on both the applicant as well as the recommender we believe that that should balance off the application process together with the internal mechanisms that we put in place where interviews are sent. Well, we have secondary interviews with applicants that we may feel at some point in time the information is not fitting what the individual is presenting to us. So we do have internal mechanisms as well to ensure that the application process goes through without much difficulties or open ways for fraud to become a part of the application process.
Yeah. So clearly, and you know, I think that people are naturally skeptical about the work that takes place in the immigration department. This is not an indictment on you, it's just a public perception based on cases and issues that have come to the forefront. We had the Senate Special Select Committee investigation. We saw where loopholes are taken advantage of, and also where there is an outright disregard for processes. So let me step it back a bit. While we talk about changing the recommendation for the new application, what else is happening internally to strengthen the checks and balances so that we know the people who are getting passports are legitimately qualified to do so? Not by the recommendation of any Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so or whatever supposed transaction.
Well, there's a lot going on. Internally, we are digitizing our database. We are trying to take all those old files that we have for people who have obtained permanent residence and nationality and putting that into a database with the hope that the new system that we will get, hopefully, CEO could speak about that in a few, that system can cross-check with the database that we have for applicants without necessarily having to do that physically as we're presently doing, because we have to physically now pull up those files in order to ensure that that applicant is indeed the individual within the file. That's one of the process that we're doing internally. But we have also modified our application process within the office where individuals come now, they can obtain a ticket through a system that they input whatever service they want, and that ticket is given to them. They can sit, wait until their number appears on a screen, and they go to the individual counters, whether it's for services or for nationality and passport, for whatever service they need. Within that process as well, we hope to make check and balances. With the tickets that we get, we could know exactly what type of process, who came in, what was given to them. So we use the internal ticketing system as a safeguard to be able to also make projections. If we know that we get 100 people coming in for one particular service, we can make officers available to deal with the individual coming in. So we're doing a lot of things internally that could safeguard the process, one, and offer better service to the Belizeans. That's ultimately the objective.
Yeah.
Can I interject here? I must say also that we have our stakeholder agencies, for instance, the Social Security Board, the Vital Statistics Unit, as well as the Elections and Boundaries Department, of which we use their identification for the purpose of application for the passports. We work along very closely with those agencies to ensure that, in fact, we can also verify with them what document was presented also for those persons who have applied for those respective Social Security cards or voters identification cards, that in fact it's the same document being presented to us there at the Immigration Department. We also have an investigation unit within the department itself that indeed where an applicant comes in and for any reason there is any doubt whatsoever, we can refer those persons to the investigation unit who goes out and investigate these instances. We also have an form that needs to be completed when in fact a person is over the age of 25 years old and is claiming to be applying for a passport for the first time. We have a investigation form that we request information from them as to is it their first passport, have they ever traveled before, who are they, who lives maybe within their neighborhoods, what school did they attend, and things like that. So we can verify those information to make our processes a little bit more foolproof.
So what you're talking about is the database that is being worked on that can be used by different departments, and you can access vital stats or social security information. That's very new, and surely comes with it with its glitches. You know, I know information is still being inputted. We've heard stories of people go and say, well, they don't exist in one system but in another. So we know that there's going to be that growing pain as we progress. But I think if I could get the CEO to respond here, I think you are very well aware of what you are up against in terms of being able to build the trust in this system. So even in terms of management style or kind of the level of adherence that you ensure that the staff is maintaining, looking at who has access to these systems and how they get access, what kind of clearance. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, well, we're the typical public service.
Yeah.
And one of the important things about accountability in the public service is that you have to rotate people. And that's one of the practices that we have at immigration, where we rotate our clerks in particular.
Yeah.
Our front counters, our people are rotated. Those people in the background producing nationality certificates, managing our files,
Yeah.
they go through a rotation process on a regular basis. That way nobody gets very comfortable in one place.
When you look at that very same system of rotation as you've just mentioned, you're seeing essentially that it's a bit more difficult for someone to get accustomed to one particular position within the department, to where he or she would have access to information that is sensitive, that can either be forged, sold, or whatever the crime may be in that area. That is something that is done countrywide, presumably, as opposed to just the main offices, perhaps in Belmopan and Belize City?
Really, it's a main office. Everything ends up in Belmopan. All the final processing ends up in Belmopan.
Yeah.
So even when you have points of entry, like for instance in Punta Gorda or in Corozal or at the western border, if there are documents to be dealt with, they still have to be sent to either Belize City or Belmopan?
Yes, in particular for passports and nationality. But when we talk about, let's go back a little bit to nationality and permanent residence. For a person who wants to become a Belizean, for instance, that person has to first have permanent residence. In other words, he has to be here for a year, having been legal. So one of the processes there is that which ends up at the director's desk, is that he must check to see that that person's passport shows that indeed he has been keeping himself legal for that 1 year before he satisfies himself and signs off on a person's permanent residence. But the next step from there is to become a Belizean citizen. A person has to be here for 5 years. And after 5 years, he can then apply. That application goes through a first vetting. It's published, the person's name and address are published in the Gazette. And then that name goes to the Nationality Scrutinizing Committee, which comprises people from the public service as well as from the private sector.
Yeah.
Before the person can get approved as a citizen, before the minister signs off on his nationality. And then once the nationality is presented to the individual, that name is again published, saying that this person has become a Belizean.
Now, I don't want to, I know we're short on time, but there's a certain elephant in the room, if I may, that needs to be discussed while we have you guys on the set with us. And that has to do with the recent move in the Lake Independence constituency to perhaps facilitate the process of nationality, gaining a nationality. Perhaps categorically, can you give us a position on how that is done and, well, how the process ought to be done from the department's perspective?
Any individual who wants immigration services is free to visit any one of our offices in Belize. Yeah. And we have offices in all the district towns. In fact, more recently, we've added a member of staff that deals only with issues of nationality and passports, separate from those uniformed persons who deal with border issues. But again, we are open to individuals to come and visit us. Yeah. And as I outlined earlier, there is a process that we follow in order for anybody to get permanent residence and move on to citizenship.
But now I want to, just let me follow up there, because you're right, there are government offices, and I think that that was really the major issue and major contention that came out, that it was not a government office that information was being processed. Now, clearly the position being put forward by the politician is they're just looking through the documents and helping them. That's a process offered by the immigration department. Is that the case?
Indeed.
Okay. And are you typically called out to a public gathering by a politician and you go forward with helping people to understand nationality issues? Is this a common practice? As we saw at Swift Hall?
I think it was a good opportunity.
But do you organize events like this on your own?
I can't recall ever being involved in such an event. For immigration.
Can you understand why the optics of it, using the Prime Minister's favorite word, is very concerning for the public when a politician plans an event about people obtaining nationality, which many will assume would lead to voting, getting a voter's ID, and the immigration department responds and participates in a non-government sanctioned event outside of the immigration department?
Well, if I may just interject, Marlene, there's absolutely no way that any politician can come and bring an individual to the department or even send an individual where we could just grant them citizenship. The legislative changes and the procedural changes that were implemented with the amendments of 2014 completely prohibits that. They must go through the process. CEO was just alluding to, you would have to live here at least 1 year before you become a permanent resident. And 5 years after obtaining permanent residence, then you can apply for citizenship. If you bring a gathering of 1,000 people several months before elections, there is no way. Simply because these people, if they apply today, you have individuals who have applied from 2018, 2019. These people would have to wait until all these applications from 18 and 19 are processed for them to get into queue. So there are systems within the department that prohibits that. They can't just bring 20 or 30 or 40 individuals and say, give them citizenship. It can no longer happen that way.
And I hear what you're saying. It is the theoretical version. Like we know in school, there's the theoretical version and there's the practical version. And the practical version we've seen unfold before our very eyes in the investigation, that people do in fact get nationality certificates in a rapid speed that does not follow the process and that does not go through the typical waiting period or your queue in line. So we know this to be an issue of the past. I'm not bringing you speculation, in other words.
I agree.
So when things like this take place, and we know that we're entering into the critical phase of the election period where we imagine more of this may take place, how do we know that you, as public service, will ensure that the processes are held true to what they should be versus the political infiltration that we've seen in the past?
We have to follow the law. Sarzu spoke about the amendments to the law in 2014. We are subject to penalties as well. if we don't observe those laws. We have our own checks and balances within the ministry, within the department, to make sure that one person does not carry through a transaction. You just have to, I guess the Belizean public just has to rely on us who manage the system to ensure that it works.
And there's a very integral part of the system that CEO mentioned previously, the Nationality Scrutinizing Committee. That committee will not allow an application to come before them that is not within the batch processing system. If one application appears that is recent, they're going to ask questions. Why is this application here? Send it back. So they really keep us in check as a department. Their functions, again, is to scrutinize. And if they do not, that application does not fit within what is legally required, they don't recommend. And CEO is here, he's a member of the committee, so it's not like it was prior to 2014. That's as best as I could say.
Yeah. And I think it's important to give people this reassurance consistently. And so when we have conversations like this, it is necessary for us to go back and look at the devils of the past and know that we are doing, or that you guys are doing, what needs to be done to ensure that those don't rear their ugly heads again. Specifically this year, it's a very critical year. And I go back, you know, there is the minister, clearly, but then you are in charge as the CEO. I mean, is it something that is reiterated consistently, this issue that you will no longer be the immigration system of the past? Is it a culture that is cultivated and communicated very often?
We keep coaching and mentoring our staff. Every new person who comes in gets an opportunity to talk to everybody in the department. He or she has time to sit with the directors and get some sense of where we are and where we want to go as a department. So yes, we should be good.
Well, you know the eyes are on you, so people will be watching. What we do know at this point is come February 3rd, people can expect a new passport application system, right?
Yes.
And what you're saying is the fact that if I choose to recommend Isani, I also have to submit my information. I'm also certifying that my declaration is factual, which means if I am not being honest, and I don't know him and he didn't really live in Belize, then I can also be culpable.
That's right.
All right.
You'd be charged up to $50,000 in fine or go to prison and lose your passport.
Yeah, don't want that to happen. Sorry, Stanley. All right, and if people have any questions, do you have people who are going to assist along the way? You know, anytime there are changes that are being implemented, there's some confusion that takes place. So going into the office is always helpful?
Yes, it is. In fact, we've recently opened a new window that we call our customer service window.
Okay.
That anybody can come there to pick up their printed ticket instead of going to the security guard at the gate. And ask any question that you wish to ask at that window.
All right, and the time frame, I know there was a backlog at a time for passports.
Yes, well, again, it depends where you apply. If you apply in Belize City or in the districts, the timeline is a little longer than if you apply in Belmopan. And this is so simply because of the aging system that we have. Hopefully, CEO could mention that we're sourcing a new passport system. So
what does that mean, a new passport system? Like new passports?
No. A new system that's going to produce the passports, that's going to print the passports. And we're hoping that with that new system, we'd be able to link into these source document areas like vital stats and social security, and also link our nationality records into that system.
Yeah. Okay, so you said there's a time frame. What's the window?
In Belmopan, we try to maintain the 2 weeks application process for ordinary application. Of course, we have the expedited services that we provide, which is the 24 and the 48 and the 3 to 5 days that come with an additional fee. But those are only done in Belmopan. For the districts, because we only have Corozal District, Belize District, and then Punta Gorda that are accepting applications, it takes sometimes within 6 to 8 weeks for the process. And again, this is simply because we have a system that is pretty old, from 2005, and we know that technology over 10 years is no longer it's no longer technology, it's not new anymore. So we're trying to get a new system, source a new system that could have us open the district offices again, like Orange Walk, then San Pedro, and all these different districts, so that we could have applicants not only running to one district station and overwhelming the staff and clogging the system, which is not necessarily their fault. But we hope to get this at the earliest, once we can find the finances, I guess.
We're working on it.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in. Thank you for addressing the concerns that we've brought up, and of course, letting us know and understand what is going to change come February 3rd with the application for a new passport. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
We're going to go ahead and take that break. When we come back, we are going to be talking to the Belize Cancer Society about World Cancer Day and their upcoming fundraiser, so stay tuned.
With over 100 years of service excellence in Belize, the Belize Bank Limited recognizes the importance of leading the way as we enter into this fast-growing technological world.
And we're back, and we're moving into our second part of our show. We are gearing up for the commemoration of World Cancer Day and fundraiser that will be held to support the Belize Cancer Society. Here to tell us the details, we have two members of the Rotary Club. We have Mala Vasquez and Richard Moody, both Rotarians. Good morning. Good morning. And from the Belize Cancer Society, the president, Ruth Jaramillo. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here. Okay, so World Cancer Day is actually going to be commemorated on February 4th. So we're getting a head start on the conversation. But it is always an important topic at any point in the year. In fact, the recent statistics out of the Ministry of Health in the 2018 leading causes of death, cancer is in the top 3. So we're showing that we are still struggling with this issue.
Definitely. It's amazing when you are working in the health field that you're never surprised by the statistics. I would hope that by now the numbers begin to decrease. Yeah. But we're still at the early stages of prevention, although a lot of work has been initiated in that regard. But the incident continues to rise, and in particular, the cancers that impact our population include the breast cancer, cervical cancer, prostate cancer in males, colon cancer. Those are the top ones that, that affect our community. And the sad part is some of these can be preventable by screening, early screening. Yeah. And so the message for the Cancer Center and Society and all of the partners involved in this fight is to get screened, seek services early, and support these initiatives to raise funds.
Now, I always ask the question, and I'm hoping for an answer each time, just looking at the data, because we need the data. The cancer registry, which is still voluntary at this point, what do we know in terms of the real picture for the country?
Well, the cancer registry has begun to be implemented in some of the centers of Belize. That's an initiative of the Ministry of Health. Yes. But in addition to that registry, there are other data being collected. For example, the NHI also collects some information on cancer. In fact, one of the performance indicators for the clinics is the coverage for certain screening services. And so we have an idea of how much screenings are being done out there, and of those, what percentage of those are abnormal findings, for example, and how many of those are seeking treatment. Yeah. So yes, a lot more work needs to happen with the cancer registry, but at least we're beginning to start the documentation process. Yeah.
So let's talk to the Rotarians about coming in and supporting this particular cause.
Okay, I'll go first.
Yes.
First, Marla. I was approached by the Cancer Society to partner. And actually, Minnie called me first. And then Laura followed up and said, hey, how about doing something, collaboration between Rotary and Cancer Society? And then I took it over to Richard, who is the fundraiser chair, and then both of us went to our board and said, hey, let's do this. Yeah. And what we've done is it's a collaboration of both, and we will use the profits. We'll hope that we'll make lots of profits. Most of it will go to the Cancer Society, and a portion of it will go to Rotary to fund bigger projects.
The Life Project is one of our
Gift of Life. We'll have a clinic. The Gift of Life clinic comes on from Monday. Our doctors come in from Omaha. We'll have our first Gift of Life clinic on Monday in Dangriga, Tuesday and Wednesday in Belize City at the KHMH. They'll do out districts on the Tuesday and the Belize district on the Wednesday.
Yeah, it's a pediatric clinic.
Yes,
right,
it's a pediatric cardiology clinic. And what happens is we also have other projects like we have the school feeding programs, we have the scholarship program, we have the wheelchair program, we have the playground project, and also the house building. So I think it's, if we do things like this, we kind of help humanity.
Correct.
It's getting together and helping everybody from all walks of life, from a cancer patient to a child and in between. It's what they say, from the grave, from the crib to the grave.
Yeah.
So we make
Right.
sure that doing things together with affiliates like Cancer Society, and we plan to do more and more of it together with other affiliates, Red Cross and all those. So we have more of an impact.
Is there a particular event that's going to take place during which the funds will be raised?
All right.
Oh,
Yes.
certainly.
Leave it to
We're
you
all
now.
excited to actually, we all want to jump in together because we're so excited. It's actually.
cue the music.
Yes, cue the
Yes.
music.
Cue the music,
Jeez,
exactly.
you're right.
Actually, we should have thought of that.
I got it.
You got it, you got it. It's a night of Indian fusion, and it's a Bollywood night. So if you know anything about Bollywood, you know that means lovely entertainment, very exposure to a rich culture, wonderful dress codes. I can't wait. I think Miss Marla needs to jump in because I'm not doing it.
I have to change my whole genre and approaching this one.
Correct.
I have to learn a couple words from Marla.
Well,
from
you know
Papa
Priyanka,
Chandran.
right? Everybody knows about Priyanka, and
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
knows that India is all flashy and
Oh, yeah.
glitzy, and you go to Bollywood to forget
Yeah.
Right.
reality, go into fantasy, and we'll have fashion shows, and we'll have Indian fusion music and food
Cuisine.
and silent auction and
Dancing.
Of
lots
course.
of that.
Don't
Oh
worry.
my God!
It's one of the communities that actually do dance. That's the
And
best
you know,
part.
you should see the guys jump in and dance. Oh my God, everybody like,
Yeah.
let's do this. Before I forget, yesterday, 26th of January, was a very big day for us. That was our Republic Day. So I'm gonna.
Oh, you're gonna do a dance for us? That's what's gonna happen
This
right
is
now?
this is
Go ahead.
This
Just
is
make it
a this is a fusion
Yeah.
of all the music, and it's called an Indian mashup. You know, even with your national anthem. This is, they turn it into like, you want to go like.
I know. Thank you. Right. At least I get the upper body going. Right?
And remember, with Indian music, it's very easy. Just remember that you're putting on the light, you're fixing the light, and then with your hand, you're patting the dog.
Okay. And that's the objective.
And
by
don't
the time,
forget,
by the
gotta
time they
move.
night
Yeah, I
is
think we need that
right.
Standing demonstration, right?
Yes, yes. By the
And
time.
what will Richard be doing? Just remind us again.
Richard, you would jump in
Yeah.
right
Well,
here.
it's fusion, so
Yeah.
we're not just going to do Indian music. So for ticket holders out there, don't think you're just coming to an Indian event to hear Indian music. We'll play all sorts of genres going to be hit that night.
Yeah.
The great 80s that I impact a lot right now as well. Some great soca music. And of course, some chutney music from Trinidad going to be played as well. So it's going to be a great night. So
And
it's going to be a fun night. The
authentic
music is on point.
Indian
You don't have to worry about that part, Marlene. Just get your ticket.
I was worrying about your dancing. That's why.
Oh, my-
Because men dance too, right?
I don't dance.
They have rehearsals. Oh no, you will watch Richard
Okay.
dancing that night. That is a challenge.
Yes, yes,
What,
yes,
it is?
yes,
Oh,
yes.
absolutely.
DJs don't dance.
And we'll have a lot of door prizes, and of course we'll be watching the person or the couple that has the best Indian move.
Oh.
You know, so start practicing, guys.
Where
You
does
got-
this happen?
The Princess Ramada, this Saturday night. We kick off from 7 p.m. until 2 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
It will be a real fun night, Isani and Marlene. So I would like to invite you guys to come out and then support this initiative.
It's a fundraiser, and I think it's having fun,
Yes.
and
It's a fundraiser.
exploring and learning more if you haven't been exposed before of the Indian culture. But more importantly, you're contributing towards a good cause.
Yeah.
You've made very clear that the proceeds are being split, and what you're going to be doing with what Rotary is able to raise. And what about the Cancer Society? Where are these funds going?
The Cancer Society is working very hard to open its own cancer center treatment unit, and it's already on its way of being constructed. Actually, we're almost there.
That's your second floor that you're
Second
putting
floor,
on?
Correct.
Yeah.
And then the idea is to provide that service closer to those in the north and in the Belize district, so they don't have to always travel so far.
So-
Although
Yeah.
Dangriga is still accessible, it is a challenge for several
Yeah.
people. So we
Yeah.
want to extend, and it's a partnership with the Dangriga Cancer Center as well.
Yeah.
So it's a collaboration.
Yeah, and there is no excuse for anyone not to get screening and
Right.
treatment, and they're making it so easy and it's accessible, you know?
Yeah. Now, quite a bit of your funds at the Cancer Society goes towards assisting people as well with screening and treatment.
Right. That's the most important element of the support that you get.
Yeah.
Often we get the diagnosis and then you're left with that what next?
Yeah.
That overwhelming feeling. And that's why these networkings are vital.
Yeah.
People with cancer, you can't exclude them from
Yeah.
their social requirements or needs. And often the ones that come forward also have very limited funds and resources. So what better way to network than to direct some of these same persons to address their other more pressing needs? Cancer can ruin a family financially.
Oh, yeah.
We all know this. One event can literally ruin the family. So the networking is vital. So I don't see this as mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
It's rather a collaboration of both elements and being able to refer patients to the services that they require.
Yeah.
And some of these parents have kids with special needs also.
Yeah.
That's right.
And it's just not in
Yeah,
isolation.
Yeah. I think last week Rotary also gave funds, made out a check to the Cancer Society to help in a bone marrow transplant for one of
Yes,
the
last
children that
Wednesday.
are there. And we kind of make sure that we touch base with all our affiliates like the World Pediatric Project and all of that to make sure that you have some people who will tap everybody.
Yeah.
But we need to make sure that due diligence is done.
Yeah.
So everybody gets the benefit of the funds that are available. And then if a fundraiser is required, we all jump in and do that and then help everybody.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
That's the idea.
Doing it jointly has a larger impact, and the public then can see where their money is going.
Yeah.
You know?
Makes sense.
All right. And how have things been going so far? Tickets are still available, or?
Tickets are available at the Cancer Society.
Yeah.
Tickets are available
At the Rocky.
at
Rocky
at
Salon on
Rocky
Albert
Salon.
Street. You could check Love FM. You could members at World Club Belize and also
and at Madisco.
Society, Cancer
Right.
Society as well have tickets for sale as well. And they're moving very fast.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think Mala have a catering number, so you better get the tickets fast. 'Cause when she is planning, she make sure when she hit her ceiling, she's not going to take on any more. If she said at 400, it's 400. So get your tickets.
And the ticket includes your entrance. What else?
Your entrance and your dinner. You have a 7-course. It's a buffet, of course, and top-notch service. And you will have your bar with wine and spirits and soft drinks.
We have the wine
and-
lady as well. So you
Right.
know,
The connoisseur, so you know we're in the
Yeah.
right hands, right?
And the prices are going to be reasonable, so you have a great time.
Yeah.
Of course, we want everybody to drink, be reasonable, you
Yeah.
know.
Responsible.
Be responsible and
Yeah.
be reasonable where your quantities are concerned, but spend a lot. let your
And you
wallet
don't
flow
spend on
as
alcohol, you
easily
can
as the
spend on
wine.
silent auction.
and your drinks. Yes.
Definitely.
So,
and the silent
yeah.
auction as well.
And
Yeah.
we have a silent auction. We have quite a few, and we have, of course, some fantastic door prizes. I have to also say that the Indian community
Yes.
has jumped into this, and they have all been such a great help. Of course, it's
we
Bollywood,
would be
right?
remiss not to acknowledge that
Yes.
effort.
Yes.
I'm actually, I was amazed because I got to meet these very energetic women and just to experience how different cultures relate to each other. I was in awe.
Yeah.
Just to see how they are able to talk to each other and say, no, we got this, you do
Yeah.
this, and delegate. It was quite a rewarding experience for us also to learn from
Right.
From different cultures and how they communicate, and just by a little handshake.
And you
or
see,
a
by the
head.
time Ruth left from that meeting,
I was doing my
Ruth was actually doing this.
You can't resist. You feel left out if you don't join in. So our dream is to have our goal is to have everyone doing some kind of Indian dance.
Yes.
A little move before the night is over.
You know,
Right, a wave. You know how we do the wave in other Latin countries? We're going to do a little Indian wave by the night.
Yeah.
It's called fusion, right? So
right.
Yeah.
There you
go.
Great energy flowing all night, you know.
Right.
All right. It's such a wonderful initiative, and we know supporting two great causes. Definitely always an opportunity to assist with people who are struggling from diagnosis right up to the treatment, and also to the work that Rotary does from the Gift of Life and some of the other programs that you have ongoing. So people can support by attending the event, and also spending when they get there as well.
Right.
And we ask the companies sometimes to purchase on behalf of staff.
Yeah.
Give the staff an opportunity to experience something different.
Yeah.
You know, in this country, we hunger for culture, opportunities to be exposed to arts, to the fashion. And that's, we forgot to say, there's going to be a
fashion show.
Yes, a fashion
You'll
show.
have a fantastic collection.
All right.
And the dances that you're going to see, oh my God. You know.
So that's the idea, is to expose Belizeans to our different facets of our culture. And that's a great opportunity to learn a little more, not only about cancer, about the Rotary, but about a culture that is very prevalent in our country. And you know, it's amazing. It's still a mystery to us, to many of us. So this is an opportunity to expose yourself and learn and just enjoy.
We are a melting pot.
Correct.
And
We're
we know
all
we can look
Belizeans,
forward to
you
good
know?
food, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Food is on point.
Yes, the food is on
One of the
point.
great chefs, Indian chefs,
Yes.
chefing up for us.
Nice.
Sumati will
I've
be
had this food
making
before,
our
man.
catering,
Okay.
and you just go hungry.
When it's 7 o'clock, so
Go hungry and thirsty.
All right, once again, you can get tickets from Rotarians, you can get it from the Cancer Society, you can get it from Madisco,
That's
from
right.
Love,
Yes.
and get them early because you
That's
have
right.
a capacity.
Yes.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
well, thank you very much for coming in and giving us the details.
Thank you for
and
having us
best
here.
of luck.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for having us here.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we will have more Open Your Eyes in a few, so stay tuned.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
No tricks, no illusions. This Smart SIM is all you need to make the switch to your full-service telecom provider. Smart. No need to purchase a new device. Just swap your DigiSIM and join the Smart network. You'll enjoy the best rates on calls, text, and data. Swap your DigiSIM with the free Smart SIM at no cost to you. Every month for 3 months, you will get 3 days of unlimited calls and text, plus 200 megabytes of data on your new Smart SIM. It's time to get smart.
If you have a baby on the way, here is what you need to know about maternity benefit. It includes both an allowance for 14 weeks and a grant, which is a lump sum of $300. The basic requirements are
You must be employed, you must have at least 50 paid contributions, and you must have continuous contributions leading up to delivery. To apply, a licensed doctor certifies the expected date of delivery. The employer completes the salaries record. Submit your completed claim form as soon as possible. After giving birth, submit your continuation claim no later than 3 weeks after delivery. If the mother does not qualify, the father of the child may qualify for the maternity grant. Want to know more about maternity benefit or grant? Visit our website or contact any of our offices to have someone assist you. Also, be sure to visit our Facebook page and give us a like to stay informed. Social Security Board, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
This is a message from the Belizean Youth for Road Safety in collaboration with the Belize Road Safety Initiative and BEM. When you reach that light, take heed, reduce speed, hold up when you reach that light, take heed, reduce speed, hold up when you reach that light, hold up when you reach that light, wait till it change up when you reach that light, hold up when you reach that light, wait till it change up. Red means stop, green means go. When you see the yellow, then that time it goes slow. Some people like push, now they want me up so. Your destination got nowhere to go. Look out, the people when they walk across the road. Look out, the people when they ride past the road. When you're walking, look out with their hands and slow. The pedestrian signal will die. When you reach that light, take heed, reduce speed. Hold up when you reach that light, take heed, reduce speed. Hold up when you reach that light, hold up when you reach that light, wait till it change up when you reach that light, hold up when you reach that light, wait till it change up.
We're back and we're moving into our final conversation for today. We have return guests with us, of course. We are talking about forest gardens and, of course, the significance of chaya in the Maya community and, of course, for the rest of us as well. We have with us on set Dr. Annabelle Ford, who is the president of Exploring Solutions Past, the Maya Forest Alliance, and director. And we have Cynthia Ellis-Topsy, who's the Duke of Edinburgh's Award International Representative in Belize. Good morning.
Good morning, lady. Good morning.
Well, I saw you brought the chaya today, Dr. Ford, right?
Yes, well,
we were talking about this mysterious plant the last time, and now you bring it.
Shouldn't be a mystery. It should be in every house.
It's not. It's such a healthy plant, but more importantly, it holds such cultural significance for the Mayans as well, right?
Right.
So let's just do that refresher there. So when you started off your rotating your exhibit on looking at dinner with the Maya, it was called Chaya, Dinner with the Maya. It was about showing how in the Mayan culture they've used forest gardens, and it's been such an integral part of how they live their lives.
And how they manage the landscape.
Yes.
I mean, we have to be careful about temperature.
Yeah.
You know, does anyone notice a rising temperature?
Oh, absolutely.
And if you're waiting in for someone, a bus or a vehicle, do you wait in the sun or? is shade.
Yeah.
So shade is a temperature dropper.
Mhm.
Of course, we can increase biodiversity by planting chaya and other things, mame, what other kinds of things we eat. Increase biodiversity, simply having that.
Mhm.
We can conserve water, which I don't know if anyone knows, but it's more valuable now than practically the fuel you put in your vehicle. Fertility, how are we going to eat without good fertile soil? We need to manage that, reduce erosion, keep the soil on it, and care for people. That's what we need.
Yeah.
And the things we will talk about tonight with Dr. Joseph Palacio, by the way, is why it's so important that we conserve places like El Pilar and how connect with traditional landscape work that all indigenous people, Garifuna, Maya, anyone that was here even maybe 100 years ago or 50 years ago when I first came here, people were living much closer to the landscape and were able to draw everything from that landscape.
Well, that was going to be my question, because I think oftentimes when people think of development and the places that we hold as the ideal in terms of what a developed city looks like, it's concrete jungles. It's less green. And what you're trying to discuss is how important it is for us to not go that direction.
Well, in fact, you can have greenery in your own backyards.
Yeah.
I have an example, I don't know if you got that, but just of this small base of operations I have in Cayo, of what it looked like when I first acquired it, and that was in 2005, and then what it looks like the 2 years later, and then what it looks like today.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you can eat, you can have medicine, you can have herbs, you can have fruit, you can have tea, you can have anato for making recado.
Recado,
and I mean, you can just have everything. And it also is beautiful, reduces dust. I don't know about you guys, but all-weather roads and what's happening on our roads today. I know they'll get better, but it is a little...
So the garden helps to keep the dust down?
Well, yeah,
about your house?
Definitely. I mean, you're not going to stop it. I don't mean to say that.
Yeah.
But of course, it's capturing all the atmospheric material.
I didn't think of that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very, and then you have a little bit more privacy, you would say. What's interesting, I want to talk a little bit about, before I hope to see my thing. Chaya is perennial. It's a tree spinach, so you always have your spinach. It's got more calcium, more iron than spinach, that is not perennial. And this invention of the Maya, because it's really an interesting invention, it's a clone. So it's the DNA of this one, the DNA in my house up in Cayo, the DNA in Flores or in Palenque or in Mérida is essentially the same because the seeds are not viable. Do you know that we have chaya in the forest? The leaves are the same, but they're like giant. They're like stinging nettles. You touch them and they burn you.
Yeah.
This one is not like that.
That doesn't burn?
Doesn't burn. It sometimes bites, they say.
Okay.
Some of them have a little thing here, but this one doesn't.
See, I grew up knowing that if the chaya tree is around, be careful, because it's going to sting you. That's how I grew up, because my mom grew them.
But it just had a little bite.
Okay.
But it wouldn't be like the one in the forest is just covered with little fuzz, and those fuzz burn you. But think about how you get from that. Oh yeah, here's my house. Look at this. What it looked like when I first rented it, and what it looked like 2 years later.
2 years later.
Just 2 years later. And then the next picture is today. Let's see.
So that's what it was like in the beginning, and what you put plants. What type of plants are those? I see
we
a
have
planting.
banana. We have madre cacao. We have Ramon, which I brought some example things of Ramon. All kinds of things, and this is what it looks like today. My neighbors have no, and it cools you down.
Yeah.
You have moist earth, so you're attracting. I have birds that you don't see anywhere, and I get volunteers. Siricote, can you imagine? Siricote. I have a siricote back there. I did not plant it. And the first year, you know Warumo or trumpet tree? I wanted to plant trumpet tree. And the forest gardeners, they were almost rolling on the floor with laughter because they say it will come. It's a volunteer, but it's a sign of good earth. It's the big
trumpet tree. I don't know which one that is.
It's got a huge hand of lobes of leaves, and it grows very slender.
Yes,
and it's very much an early succession. It's early in the things, but when you see it, you know you have good soil. Plus, the big leaves drop and bring more organic matter. So I wanted one. They were literally rolling on the floor. Even when I tell a story to them now, they can't help but laugh.
Oh, because you don't plant it.
Well, I don't know.
I'm asking.
I wanted to plant it. They say it will come.
Yeah.
It will come, they said. The next year I had my warumo. In fact, I was preferring the warumo over my soursop, and my forest gardeners were admonishing me.
Yeah.
Why would you not
One
want
provides food.
Yeah, right.
Drink.
Right. So I don't have. I have more shade now. I have a mahogany. I have a mahogany tree. I don't know if I can see it there. It is now.
Well,
it's
10 years.
It's actually 15
years later.
It's like this big. Oh no, it's that big.
Yeah.
And that's best for making guitars.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm impressed of what can happen when you actually invite that world back.
Yeah.
No, I think what you're showing us is really, it's getting the buy-in from residents as well, because sometimes we see something like that and we say, oh, look at this overgrown lot. Like, why doesn't this lady trim the trees?
Yeah, people come by and want to do that. And I say, no, look at what we have. I have ornamentals, I have heliconia, I have
a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And like you say, it's cooler and it does reduce the dust. I brought my vehicle in to Bravo to get something done. They said, do you live on a dirt road? I said, do you live in Belize? I don't live on a dirt road. I live on an all-weather road.
Now, Cynthia, talk to us. We know you've been a collaborator in this project. Talk to us about where we are now and especially looking forward.
Well, thank you for having us back. We just recently came back from Guatemala City, where there was a gathering of experts from Mexico, Belize, Guatemala. And what was very exciting about this conversation, what the facilitator said to us, think out of the box. For years, we've been having these discussions about sustainable development, biodiversity. So what? What impact has that had on the communities and the people themselves? And I was very excited to be with Dr. Ford at this gathering because we were challenged to be innovative. We were challenged that same old was not good enough in terms of what's happening in the world today as far as, better than me, violence, crime, etc., climate change and so on. And so one of the things that emerged out of it for us based on these issues here is exactly that. How do you get the buy-in? One, we had a conversation about validating our relationship with the plants, who we are as a people, the Maya, the Garifuna, the Mestizo, Belizeans, in terms of promoting wealth untold. Because when it comes to the process and the documentation, it's mostly people who come from outside of Belize who have been the researchers and so on and so forth. And so I feel very honored to walk with Dr. Ford in terms of changing the conversation, to value the fact, and thank God she's open, that had it not been for the indigenous forest gardens and the people, the Maya, the Garifuna, who don't necessarily have the capacity to navigate these systems without facilitation, she would not have gotten her doctorate. So that was part of the conversation among these three countries. And we even came up with a focus on what is this Maya seal? What does it mean to be Maya? What does it mean to be indigenous? And to what extent are the Maya benefiting from all of this? Is this a part of the curriculum for science or for agriculture in our schools, not only in Belize, but for the region and for the world? So that's how I would really like us to enter into this conversation, and the exhibit is not just show and tell. It has a dynamism that we would like to see translated beyond the event.
Yeah. And I know very clearly from when you started the exhibit, and now it's back in Belize. You're having a
No,
special-
it's been in Belize
been
the
in
whole
Belize
time.
City.
But you have an event tonight.
Yes, this
Yeah.
is closing. And we will.
And then you move to the museum.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we will.
So, from the very beginning, when you launched it, you talked of wanting kind of an integrated experience. It was not just to come and watch pictures.
Right.
It was about learning through the process and also acknowledging the very important, the critical point that you said, maybe stirring the conversation. How does the Mayan population benefit from the history they're providing to us, even through this exhibit? So, looking now from when you first started to closing off and moving to a new venue, what do you think has been the significant growths or achievements along that way, or even conversations that you never thought were going to spur from it?
Well, I think that the household belongings really does resonate, and
Yeah.
that's what the museum, which the director, Alexis Salazar,
Yeah.
really wants to see more of, and I think this will really transform.
Yeah.
I mean, when it goes to the museum, it may look the same initially, but it's going to transform to something that is really palpable
Yeah.
and can really bring out that relationship. We all drink, cook, store, and the things that we're looking at, the Maya had to drink, cook, store, and they had to have food as well.
Yeah.
So where was their supermarket? How did they use it? What did they do to manipulate? This is a manipulated product, but the product in the end is better than the one that they manipulated.
Yeah.
And you can't plant a seed, but you just cut it, and we'll leave you some. And we brought sticks to give to people at the closing event.
So you don't use seeds; you just use a portion of the plant.
Yeah, and you cut it. You have to look at where this little dot is, and what I call the smile. The smile goes down, and the dot goes up. And you just plant one in the ground and one out, and then you have your next plant. And you can just go plant a line, plant a circle.
And it grows very easily.
Grows pretty easily. I mean, you know, of course, you can't guarantee everything's going to pop up. But if you take a couple, you're going to have something.
I mean, if you put it in clay, you're
right,
asking
right.
for a lot.
Well, and you know, like kanankash, which is the Maya term, we translate it well cared for forest, but it really is a dialectic because it's not. You have to pay attention whether it needs water or if it needs dry, if it needs sun.
Yeah.
These aren't getting enough sun, so they're changing their color, you know, so we need to change that. We need to listen to the plants. The plants are a lot slower than we are to respond, and we have to pay attention to them. And that's really what the story is about. And I don't even know half the things. These wonderful forest gardeners. We'll have several forest gardeners there. Narciso Torres, I say, I wouldn't know anything without him. Their observation. They know the smell, the color of the plant, the seed when it drops, the animals that it attracts, the shape of the flower or the leaf. It's phenomenal the kinds of ways they observe.
Yeah. And so tonight, do you tell us what people can expect if they come on? It's a public event. It's
Yes.
at 6 p.m.
Yes. Dr. Joseph Palacio will be our feature speaker, which is very exciting because he was one of the originators or one of the first Belizean archaeologists.
Yes, indeed.
And so it's very significant that he's honoring us with his presence. He's Garifuna, which is very significant because that helps us in that shift that we are now openly declaring that this knowledge and this information is for all groups, all ethnic groups. And so we have Garifuna, Creole, Mestizo, and other forest gardeners. And so that's very exciting that we will journey with him in terms of what his experience has been like.
Yeah.
More important, we would like to have, as you said, the buy-in and the involvement of the community from all walks of life. We would like to have people visit El Pilar. We would like to have people have gardens, forest gardens. We would like to have people, the schools in fact, involved so that it becomes a part of the curriculum. And we're very excited that we've been getting that kind of support.
Yeah.
So
And really, people have watched your programs, have brought up the chaya. I mean, there's been some resonation, so you're really right.
Nobody was happier than my mother because when I showed chaya my whole life, she said, "See, it was very good for you." Because we spoke of the connection to the Maya, but it's also really healthy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They were doing something that we need to all benefit from and share.
And more important, and not more important, just as important is the economic dynamics of it, people who are looking for jobs and all that kind of thing. The land, in the World Trade Organization in Jamaica has supported the Maroons in terms of valuing what is on the land.
Yeah.
And so this is the kind of thing that we are looking at. Wealth untold, tell it. That our land, we're not poor.
And under the shade we flourish. Does
Absolutely.
that resonate anywhere here? Do you know what the temperature is? We should get students to go out and take a temperature out in the middle of a street. It'll be 40, 50, even 60 degrees centigrade. And you go under the tree and it's going to be, 20 to 30, you know what I mean? So just...
Well, we all know that. We don't even have to think of the temperature. If it's hot outside, we find their shade to be as cool as possible.
So we invite people to bring their plants and to share at the event. The library did a traveling exhibition with us as well.
Yeah.
And the stories behind the plants. The plants don't just stand by themselves. They're connected to people.
That's what I always find fascinating. If you do hike, like when you go on hikes sometimes and you see that, the plant that stings you, there's the remedy plant maybe just a few feet away.
Absolutely.
Naturally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I like how you talk about your mother, because that's the same thing with my mother. My mother comes alive when she's with her plant. She's talking. She's not crazy.
Oh.
She's talking with her plant.
They say that's the secret, right?
They have a different thing. She said, certain people, if you have bad mind, if you're not with a good energy, the plant could die, so it's beautiful.
So we need to think about how to further this,
Yes.
talk more about the
Yes.
forest gardens,
Yes.
bring forest gardeners to you so
Yes.
people,
Yeah. Yes.
people are really are I see
They're
it
hungry for
happen.
the
Yeah,
information.
you see something
But
happening.
Annabelle, Dr. Annabelle, the last time when we came, you had offered that we could have a series of conversations, because there's only so much
There's
we
a
can
lot
share,
of information,
you know?
And I was going to get to that, because we talk about chaya, because that's kind of your piece de resistance. Because in talking about Mayan connection and where we are today, but there are other plants as well that hold great significance.
Yeah, of course, Ramon.
I know you have a whole book.
This is my. This is it was really made for children, but it's also a philosophy of how to take care of the landscape.
Yeah.
And Ramon is one of the dominant trees of the Maya forest, and it has fodder for the time of chicle, and it has a seed that turns into a flower. This we got in Ishlu.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we brought this when we came from Guatemala on our way back. And one of the things too is that there's a dynamism. This really called about organic farming, gardening that is like Columbus, recently discovered.
That's very good.
It's trending.
For
That's
real,
all it is.
Yeah,
So
that's why she said.
What we're doing, or let's say from my Belizean perspective, I am claiming it and declaring it and embracing it. And at that meeting with these 3 countries, that is what we decided, that we have the responsibility to be assertive, that we have children, our children must be archaeologists, anthropologists, and let us sit at the feet of our elders who have this valuable information already.
Well, see, and I'm glad you thought of that, because that's perhaps one part of the conversation we haven't moved into as we quickly run out of time, is that there's also economic opportunity.
Absolutely.
The world is hungry for
Absolutely.
ideas
Just
like
absolutely.
flower from a plant.
Exactly.
And I mean flower as in like
Eating.
white flour.
This is much more nutritious than any flour. It doesn't have gluten, so it's gluten-free.
Precisely.
So we have
Spinach
this
what
thing-
people talk about, but chaya is extremely healthy. There's so many products we could make from
Exactly.
that.
In Cayo,
they're
they're
chaya juice tonight, right?
Yeah, we're going to have chaya juice and Ramon juice.
And Ramon Okay.
But
juice.
I want to tell you, Pops in Cayo says he's looking for people to bring in the.
right.
He needs more of this,
More
so
of the
little
plants.
homes could
And
have,
they-
could
other
bring
businesses, they
bring
want
their
a
chaya.
source, they want the source for it. So,
And
you
it
know,
can be a unique Belizean product versus
Absolutely.
doing spinach, which we do
Absolutely.
have,
Yes.
but we
No,
could
this-
say our meals are with chaya
Absolutely.
instead.
Yeah, exactly. And we do-
Actually, it has to do with just affirming our people with what we have already.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're talking about you're going to look for a job and no job not there. But you can create your own job and your own business if we realize, or when we realize that what we have is of value.
All right, so the start of that conversation for some people can happen tonight.
Tonight.
At
6
6
o'clock.
o'clock at the Mexican Institute here in Belize
Absolute,
City.
yes.
And you'll have presentations from other people.
Yeah,
You'll get
Dr.
chaya
Joseph
juice if you've never
Palazzo.
had it before.
And you can take a stick of chaya and plant it yourself, which is very important. You can become independent chaya.
We're gonna give you.
And after that, the exhibit then moves, or portions of it move to the museum.
I think the whole thing will move. But it'll be transformed
Okay.
into a whole new one that's more connected to the curriculum. And as we work together, it's going to even become better. It's going to be very exciting, this move.
Yeah.
Great. Well, best of luck tonight.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And thank
See
you
you
for
tonight.
coming back
Thank
again.
you too for having us.
We're going to go ahead now and take that final break, and when we come back, we'll have our wrap up, so stay tuned.
The Belize Bank introduces its mortgage loan promotion for first-time homeowners, offering 100% financing. No down payment, no worries. Obtaining a mortgage loan from the Belize Bank is easy, quick, and affordable. It's home ownership made easy. Visit us today and get underway in becoming a first-time homeowner. Some conditions apply. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Polystructure, manufacturer of high-quality polystyrene styrofoam products. We produce styrofoam sheets for installation 4 feet by 8 feet by 1 inch, up to 10 inches thick. Build faster and save money with our structural wall panels. Lightweight roof and floor T-beams Bovida system. Add a flair to your building design with architectural features such as elegant contours, shapes, and accents. We make any custom shape or 3D lettering. We have buoys, coolers, and box liners. Contact us at 222-4239 or visit us at 5.5 miles George Price Highway to find out about the endless applications of expanded polystyrene products.
Signing up for Smart's broadband got even better. You can now bundle and get a free monthly prepaid mobile plan with your broadband service and enjoy up to $70 in savings. Or you can upgrade your mobile plan for an additional $25 and enjoy an unlimited postpaid plan with unlimited calls, texts, and $40 free data. With Smart's fast internet speeds, you just have to choose the speed that works for your needs. Don't wait! Visit a Smart showroom near you and sign up for your broadband plus mobile bundle. And why not? Sign up and add Netflix to the mix. Smart, your full-service communication company.
Are you kidding me? Mira lo que has hecho. Ahora sí te voy a mostrar.
She just, the fence was falling. And we're back.
We are back and at the end of our show, Marlene.
That's right. We want to say thank you for tuning in this morning. Remember, if you have any comments, any questions, if you have suggestions for topics that you'd like for us to discuss as well, send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com. You can drop me a line at marlene_oye@channel5belize.com. You can find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ and on Instagram at OYE Belize. And remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
Start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
And your heart open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Our team will be looking at the history of
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.